It's something I forget every year, Rube, but the city is so much different in general after a win than it is a loss. And I don't think that's entirely unique to Philadelphia, but it's somewhat unique to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's probably more extreme here than most places, just because the Eagles are so ingrained in the fabric of our city, and there's not a lot of teams that have been in one place for whatever it is, since 1933, for almost a century. So, no, stop it. So, you're a bad person.
I didn't say
So
anything.
yeah, but it is true. And I meet so many people who are like, yeah, my grandfather, watched the, what I mean, he was watching greasy meal teams and all that stuff. And it's pretty cool. And so I think when it's kind of passed along from generation to generation, it has more meaning. And certainly Monday was and I mean, I've been telling everybody who asked that they were going to be good, that they were going to be a legitimate team. I mean, I picked 8, 9, and 8. I'm not talking about competing for a championship, but that Jalen was good and that Sirianni was good, and this is a decent team. And I think everybody's kind of skittish and kind of holding their breath. But I think Sunday in Atlanta showed that at a minimum they're a smart, disciplined, physical, intelligent team. And we'll see what happens from here. But Monday was definitely a lot of energy in the air Monday morning. People were, I think, relieved more than anything. Like I had a bunch of people tell me, it's fun to watch the Eagles again. It's like fun to be excited about them again, because last year was so bad, so dismal that the contrast was huge.
Yeah, the sun was shining a little brighter
It
on Monday
was.
morning. It was nice. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We're still going to go through a little bit of the game. We have some leftover items that we didn't get to in the post-game pod. And I feel like I have a new respect for a lot of things we saw live after rewatching. So we'll go through some of that. We had a chance to talk to the Eagles coordinators, or 3 coordinators on Tuesday. So we'll go through some of what they said. And then at the end of the pod, we'll take a quick look ahead to the 49ers. We'll really get into that on the Thursday pod with Ray Didinger. But before then, Rube, I have to tell you, I went back and watched this game. And live, I knew that the lines played well. Like, it was obvious. But I don't think I really had a true respect for how well they played until the rewatch, especially the offensive line, because so many of those plays were designed because of what this offensive line can do. Watching some of those Kelsey blocks downfield, Brooks had one downfield. Just the ability these big guys have to get into space makes this offense run. And it was honestly, like, even back in the Doug days, I always said the offense was at its best when the screen game was working, because the only way the screen game is working is if everyone is running efficiently and they're working together. And to see that in game one for Nick
Yeah.
Sirianni's team is really encouraging.
Yeah. How many times did we say last year, if only they had these 5 guys healthy at the same time, what would they be like? And I don't know, the group that started the game study never played together. I mean, Brandon Brooks missed all last year. Jordan Mailata never played before last year. So it was a new group. It was kind of the blueprint of what we've all been looking for. I guess you could add, and I'm not knocking Isaac Seumalo, but Landon Dickerson, when he's healthy, when he's ready, he's going to be better. He's going to be better than Isaac Seumalo. He just is. That's what I think. So the dream O-line is Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Brooks, and Lane. I don't know if we'll ever see that. I kind of suspect we will at some point, but yeah, when they're healthy, and they're all healthy right now, they're as good as any O-line that I've ever seen, and I'm not overstating it. They are. I mean, they've had some good O-lines here, but you have, I think you have 3 multiple Pro Bowlers on the right side. Mailata, who just gets better and better every week. I mean, you got 4 potential Pro Bowlers on the line, and we've talked about Seumalo, he's kind of up and down, and I think he's better than average. So it's kind of hard to have 5 stars all together. But it's not just the individual stuff. They just play so well together. They communicate. They're smart. Kelsey, I think we touched on this Tuesday or Sunday. I don't know if he's ever played better. I mean, here he is, 33. And I don't know if he's ever played better than he played Sunday. I mean, he was just, he looked so rejuvenated and just so, I think this, and I don't know, he was very loyal to Doug. And he, I mean, they were the two of the most visible figures of that Super Bowl run. Doug was, magician that year, and Kelsey with the parade. I mean, but that said, I think Jason feels really rejuvenated, and he's talked a lot about how much respect he has for Nick Sirianni. We know he loves Stout, and he just went out there and looked healthy, and he looked like a guy in his prime. He looked like a guy who could play another, 5 years, not like somebody who's kind of taking it year by year as far as retiring. So I was blown away by Kelsey and just his, I mean, it was vintage prime Jason Kelsey. They all played well, but Kelsey he was at it. And that one Mulata block, I mean, I just kept running it back in slow motion, just watching that poor kid get flattened.
You think he ever even I was trying to think about that. If I had to get hit by Jordan Mailata, would I want to look up at the last second and see it happening, or would I want to be a little surprised by it?
Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that. I think you can brace yourself a little, I guess, if you see it coming.
I don't know. Even if he looked up, I don't know if he had time to brace.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, there's a freight train coming at you.
The dude is just so big and so powerful and so athletic, and he's just starting to learn how to use all that, put it together. And God, he's fun to watch.
This is something Barrett brings up too, and I believe it with offensive linemen. He has a little nasty streak to him. You need it. You can't. I mean, and there are some guys that their personalities exhibit that off the field, and there's some guys who don't. He's one who, I mean, he's like a teddy bear off the field, but he has a nasty streak to him. He wants to hit people hard, and that's fun to watch. There was I don't know if you saw Brian Baldinger broke down one play in particular. It was a very good breakdown of Mailata and Lane Johnson had both of their guys, the two starting ends, on the ground. With this line, even if Hurts the chances of Hurts is that good every game, I don't know. If he takes a step back, or if the receivers have an off day, they're still going to be in games because this line is so freaking good.
Yeah, you're right. And I didn't see that breakdown, but I just, there's not a lot of offensive linemen that are fun to watch. You don't think of it as a position, wide receivers are fun, quarterbacks, running backs are fun. I mean, these guys are fun to watch. It's just fun to see them just destroying people. But you're right. They kind of make the offense slump proof. I mean, so much of what we saw Sunday was the result of the O-line. I mean, the big plays. I mean, Kenny Gainwell scores a touchdown. I mean, good for him. It was a nice play, and it's great to see the young. But I mean, I could have run. You could have. I don't know if I could have. You could have run in from there. So
yeah, that was a huge. I was Kelsey and Samalo on a combo block. That hole was enormous.
Yeah. So Stallin's the best. He's the best. He's got these guys prepared, and this is the first game.
I don't want to cut these guys. So the reason these linemen are so much fun, if you have linemen who are just standing there blocking for a pocket, that they're good, but they're not fun. These guys are fun because of their second level blocking.
Right.
And that play with Miles down the right sideline, Kelsey's out in front, 30 yards downfield. My favorite part about that play was not that he blocked two guys, that he was getting ready to block a third. He got in the safety's face at the end of it. That was my favorite part of the play, because most players would block two guys and be like, all right, I think my work here is done.
Looking for the next guy.
Looking for a third block on the same play.
Yeah. That was incredible to watch. And it's not hyperbole. I think the kid, I think Jason's a Hall of Famer. And I mean, I don't know if he'll make All Pro or Pro Bowl or whatever, but I don't know if I've ever seen anybody play the position the way he does, with that much athleticism and intelligence, consistency, toughness, leverage. I mean, he's as good as they come.
My favorite thing about Kelsey is his career is fascinating because he took all the things that when he got drafted, people called negatives or perceived negatives,
Too
and he
small.
made them his strengths.
Yeah.
Like he made his size a strength. That him pulling it's art. It's unbelievable.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the Van Gogh immersive, and there's the Jason Kelsey blocking immersive.
Yeah, I stole that from the Baldy. You got to see it. I mean, as much as I love O-line play, I don't know if anyone loves it as much as he does. But it's so much fun to watch Kelsey, and Brooks is getting back into it. And remember, that's Brandon Brooks' first game in a long time,
Yeah.
and Lane Johnson, his first game in a while. So that was game one with these guys back there, and that was
Yeah.
Jordan Mailata's start number 11. Like they can grow this year together a little bit.
You know what's interesting is, you kind of look at the draft, and like Jason Kelsey was a 6, Jordan Mailata was a 7, and they were both drafted in a year where, well, Dillard was a year later. He was a year after Mailata, but they're, comparable. Jason was drafted the same year as the
Can
fireman.
you say it? Okay.
I'm not going to say his name either.
I couldn't believe Howie Roseman said his name on his own on WIP this week.
He did.
Well, he brought up that comparison though, because he was asked about, did you want to see Dillard win that job, and he brought up Kelsey and
I think it's fair. Like if the Eagles drafted Kelsey in the first round and the fireman in the 6th round, and drafted Dillard in the 7th round and Mailata in the 1st round, people would be like, those are 2 great drafts. So why are they, crappy drafts just because those are reversed? It's all, if you get the player, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, nobody's complaining at the Super Bowl that, well, Kelsey, 6th round pick, I mean, like, that just doesn't work that way. So
I guess
I think,
devil's advocate, like I think the reason is because there's this thought that the late round picks are more of a crapshoot, and I guess it is, but
sure.
But that doesn't mean they didn't do good work. And I mean, Jason Kelsey was a pick that a lot of teams weren't going to make because of his size. And it was Howard Mudd at the time who pounded the table for him because he saw what those strengths could end up being.
Yeah, you're right. And no, I mean, I'm not saying you want to blow the 1st round. It's not a good thing to draft guys who can't play in the 1st round. But in retrospect, when you look back, it's all about getting the player or not getting the player.
Sure. Yeah, and that's Howie's point, and I'm sure he'll be happy to hear you make it because that's what he's hanging his hat on with those.
Stole it from me, I think.
He's like, I like that. I'm gonna use that. Let's flip the defense real quick before we get into the coordinators. That defensive line was really good, and on second watch, we were tough on Fletcher Cox. I didn't think he had a great game, but he got doubled a lot, and those double teams helped. And look, he has to do more than gobble up double teams. That's not, he has to get penetration, and he has to be disruptive regardless of double teams or triple teams, whatever it is. But those double teams, even on some of those big rushes by Hargrave, that's what allowed Hargrave to get a one-on-one and beat it. So even though I didn't think it was Fletcher's best game, his footprint was still all over that game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I thought he looked slow. I mean, he ended up without a stat line. I don't think he was even in the defensive stats. I don't think he had any tackles or anything. I just expect a little more. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the double teams evolve if Hargrave, continues playing like that. But we'll see. I mean, Fletcher, I still think Fletcher's really good. I just don't think he's quite what he was. I mean, we'll see. It's one game. I thought one interesting thing, and I watched most of the game. It was, I thought it was kind of a case of the D-line got such good pressure that the secondary, wasn't, I don't know, put in any bad positions for the most part. But the secondary played well too. Mm-hmm. I thought they covered really well, especially after the first couple series. And so it was really kind of the two things working together. And they were undermanned. I mean, the secondary was really undermanned. No Rodney, no Epsy, and they hung in there. And Kayvon played a lot. What did he play? 60 some odd snaps.
64, yeah, career high.
Yeah, 64 snaps by Kayvon. That was big. They needed him, and I don't think he I don't think he made any huge plays, but he must have been doing something right because they weren't throwing the ball downfield at all. So it was a real team effort between the secondary and the D line.
Yeah, and he's a guy, and we haven't talked about Kayvon in a while. I was really bullish on him coming into the season, and then in training camp he got hurt. But that's important for him to play well in these games before Rodney gets back, whenever Rodney gets back, because he's a player, even more so than Marcus Epps, who I think is going to have a role in this defense, because I think he's a much different player skill set wise than McLeod and Anthony Harris, even though I was surprised to see how deep he was playing on in that game. They had him as kind of the free for some of that game, which isn't really what he's known for, but these safeties have to be interchangeable. And he's a guy who I think he's going to have a role even when Rodney gets back. So that was a good sign. And really that kind of leads us into what I thought was that was a good transition.
It was smooth.
That was good.
You telegraphed it though. I knew where you were going.
Yeah, you can take away some style points for how long I'm talking about it right now, but it was good because Jonathan Gannon, I thought that was the most interesting thing he said to us on Tuesday. He was asked about every defensive player who dressed on Sunday, aside from Andre C, the new guy, Seycheri, I think it's Seycheri, played on defense.
He played a ton of snaps on teams.
Yeah, he played more than anyone else on special teams. He played 18 snaps on special teams, but that was by design, getting every defensive player in there. I thought it was a fascinating answer because and really Gannon gave two reasons. One is that they're going to be multiple, and we knew that about him, that they're going to have different packages for different guys. There are situations where they want Sean Bradley out there, or they want, so-and-so out there, and that kind of bucks traditional thought, because football traditional thought is you have your best 11, you put them on the field, or best 12 if you're in nickel or whatever, and you run with it. But his thought is we can keep guys fresh.
No, you still have 11.
Yeah, but there's an extra guy who's a big well, they tried to get 12 out there on one of those plays and they didn't let him have it. So but it not only keeps them fresh, but there are reasons philosophically that they want him out there. And then he took it a step further and said, if we need one of these guys in week 7 or 8, I don't want them coming into a game and having never played defense before. I like that. And that can't be the main reason you do it, but I like that foresight, because we've seen far too often the last few years, you look up, you look down, and then all of a sudden you've got Michael Jacquet out there and you're like, who the hell is 38? Why is he on the field? I like the idea of bringing these guys along slowly, getting them some reps when it makes sense schematically, so that when they do need to be forced out there for 50 plays a game, it's not a complete shock to them.
Yeah, I agree with that. But then the flip side of that is you probably don't want Michael Jacquet out there doing that. You want guys that you believe in a little bit. So you need to, if you're going to do it, if you're going to get those guys reps, get a meaningful reps, you better believe in the player, and I don't think Michael Jacquet kind of fit into that.
I mean, I'm not talking specifically about Michael.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I think it speaks to their depth that, that Gannon was able to do that. And yeah, it's, I mean, gosh, that's so important. I mean, how many times
and being up big in the second half probably doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, that's true. But I think he wanted to do it before, before that. I think it was something. I mean, I think he mentioned it last week. I think it was kind of an aside. He said, I want to get everybody in the game. We didn't really think much of it, but yeah, I definitely think there's value. I like the way Gannon thinks. I think he's a sharp dude. And it's almost like when he talks to us, it's almost hard for him to like his mind goes so fast. It just races with all these defensive thoughts. I think it's hard for him to kind of whittle it down into something that he can give us. It's interesting, but I think I said this the other day. I just love listening to talk football, and there's just a calmness about him. Really, his whole staff. But you look at Gannon, for a guy who's never done this job, and he's out there. You're looking at him in those first 2 drives, and he's just calm as could be. There's no panic. There's nobody throwing clipboards down after big plays, or slamming. Yeah, I mean, there's no screaming. There's just a real business-like approach with this whole staff, and Gannon really exemplifies that.
He adjusted so smoothly on the fly. We always hear about halftime adjustments. There are adjustments between every series, and the good coaches figure out a way to do it pretty seamlessly, and they're prepared to get punched in the mouth. So I was impressed by that. And we talk about him and the word multiple. Here, there was like a moment in this press conference. We were starting to talk about San Francisco a little bit and preparing for two quarterbacks because it looks like they're going to have some sort of package for Trey Lance as they get going here. And he actually looked excited about the idea of preparing for two quarterbacks, which is insane because it's a lot more work. You're basically preparing two different defenses, and he's excited about it. It's a lot. And we talked about how ambitious it is. It's a lot to put on your players' plates, especially when they're younger, some of them. But if he can do this consistently, and that's the fun thing, the defense we see against Kyle Shanahan's offense is going to be very different than the defense we saw against Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah, I'm going to read one quick quote from Gannon earlier today. He said he was asked specifically about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Who's the other quarterback that went to that school that Trey Lance went to? I can't think of his name. But anyways, he said it's kind of, that's right. It's kind of cool. Our players, they'll be excited. They're already prepping for San Francisco. They'll like the multiplicity of how we're going to play this week. I mean, I love that.
I mean, that's about as football nerdy as you can get, talking about your guys being excited to basically run two defenses.
But I like it. I mean, I just like that approach instead of being like, wow, what are we going to do? They got two totally different quarterbacks. They're running them on and off the field. It's like, wow, we get to prepare for two guys this week. Let's go. And that's the positivity we talk about from this staff. They're just all ball all the time, and they embrace the challenge.
Yeah. And then there's the defensive line where he was playing everyone, but really the defensive line is where that's going to be consistent. Every week they're going to rotate, and that's not necessarily special to this team, but what is special to this team is having this depth on the line. They're going to keep rotating these guys, and they should. I mean, because in some cases their backups are better than their starters, and it's going to be fun to watch. And it was interesting. He said I was actually genuinely curious about this, which is why I asked him. But how much of coming into a game do you have an idea of this is what I want the breakdown to be, and then how much of it is changing on the fly? And he said there's both, but he said in this case, in this game, it actually ended up about what they wanted, which is sometimes it just doesn't, depending on the flow. And if you have a long drive and you're stuck on the field, like there were some times where Atlanta was running hurry up, and if you got your guys out there, guess what? All of a sudden you wanted them to play 5 plays, they're playing 10, and everything can get thrown out of whack. But it seemed like to me, and Gannon agreed, that they handled that rotation pretty well.
And I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of discipline as a coach. Fletcher played 41 snaps. Hargrave played 40. Milton Williams played 31. I mean, your rookie played only 10 snaps fewer than Fletcher. That's why these guys were fresh at the end of the game, because it can be hard to take. I mean, you look at Fletcher, there was a big 3rd and 3, and there's Fletcher on the sideline. Like, what are you doing? The payoff is in the fourth quarter when they just can't stop the pass rush no matter what they're doing. So,
and you can't do that, like you mentioned earlier. You can't do that if you don't trust the guys.
Yeah, and this is Milton Williams' first game. Right? This guy's he was not a first round pick or second round pick, and they're counting on these guys. It's really, really special.
Yeah, and Josh Sweat didn't start the game. He ended up playing more snaps than Derek Barnett.
Yeah, that was interesting how that rotation went. It'll be interesting to follow that and how that edge rusher snap count goes. I thought they both played well. I thought Sweat and Barnett, they didn't get any sacks. I don't think any of the defensive ends got a sack, but I like their pressure. I have no complaints about how any of those guys played.
Yeah, and I feel like we talk about Barnett and Sweat so much, but they both get great pressure. They do, and Barnett's a disruptor. If his sack total ever caught up to how disruptive he is, I think the
He'd be
perception
more
of him
disruptive.
was no, he wouldn't be more disruptive. He would finish.
Well, I mean, if you get 10 yards out of the play, you're being more disruptive than if you get no yards.
You're being more productive.
Oh my God.
And I'm being pedantic. All right, let's move on to actually let's go to Michael Clay before Shane Steichen. I thought there were some interesting tidbits from Clay. First off, with Aaron Sipas, the punter, who, yeah, we're going to talk about the punter. He was good. He was really good in that game. His first NFL action,
First 3 punts of his life in the NFL. He's not a rookie, but his first 3 punts were like inside the 10 in the same corner, unreturnable. Well, one was returned for like 6 yards, but and the fourth one wasn't bad. I think it was to like the 25, 27, but I had no idea what to expect. I thought he looked okay in training camp. He looked all right.
Yeah, we got a lot to watch in training camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was impressed. I
Yeah.
was, and the one thing Michael Clay said that was interesting was that Sipas, an interesting story. He went through that whole Australian kicker program and program. Man, I sound like a
Savroka University. It's called.
Yeah, he did, and he played at a big time school, but he's 28. He's not, and that it was an interesting point by Clay, because they asked him, like, how did you know he was ready? And he said he's not like a typical rookie. He's not a rookie at all, but he's not a typical young player. He's not 21, 22 years old. He's 28. He has some life experience, and I like that outlook. And I think that probably does make a difference. Just he's going to be a little calmer. He's going to be able to handle the stress a little bit more, just knowing life better. It sounds weird, but you can see it. And I think that paid off.
I don't know. Getting older hasn't helped me deal with life any better, but maybe if you're a punter, no, I think there is something to that. It's a great story. I mean, it's just a story of perseverance. And there's a lot of really interesting stories on this team, and most of them come from Australia, I guess. They got to keep drafting or to keep finding those Australian dudes.
That's an interesting thing. How many teams have 3 Australians in their building?
Yeah, they're not many.
Yeah,
not many.
The other thing, Matt Leo on the practice squad, 29, old Australians here. Yeah. The other thing he brought up was Jalen Reagor, and I don't know if we talked about it after the game, but Jalen Reagor looks like the full-time punt returner. Now that could change if he needs a break because he's playing a lot on offense, which he did. But full-time punt returner, and in situations where he was not the punt returner a year ago. So he lined up at the 10-yard line on Sunday last year. That's a Greg Ward rep. So it tells you they trust him. And he made some nice plays. There was one in particular that Clay brought up where he kind of sprinted up on the ball and caught it. If it bounces, get down inside the 5. You don't know.
Yeah, I just think he's got to be a little more decisive at times and move that thing forward instead of taking that great circle route and trying to get the edge, because he's just not going to do that against NFL caliber speedy special teamers. But
there's a balance though, because he's I think there is some ability there that if he gets guys out of their lanes, if he goes a little horizontal at times, I think it's about knowing when to do it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we've seen, certainly once he gets into the open field, he's fast, and punt returning certainly, I think, kind of goes with his skill set. So I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to average 4.8 all year. If he does, if you want 4.8, you may as well put Greg Ward back there and give Jalen the rep off. But I'm okay with giving him a few weeks and seeing how it goes. I think he'll be okay at it.
And Quez is the kick returner. Pretty obvious from that first game. So you have just the Eagles chose explosion. Last year they had Greg Ward, who returned more punts than Reagor, and you had Boston Scott as a kick returner. Nothing against Boston, but Quez is a more explosive player. He's faster. So at least you have the threat of taking one to the house.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And Quez, I mean, I don't know how many, your kick return doesn't get a lot of opportunities the way the league is now, but I think he had one, got it out 20 yards. He looked okay on it. I thought the Falcons coverage units were really good. I mean, they looked fast, and I mean, they were like, that was the best part of the game for the Falcons was their coverage units. They were great. So I don't think there was a lot of opportunities for either of those guys. But they certainly have two fast guys back there fielding them.
Yeah. How about Shane Steichen? I thought the most interesting things he said were about Devontae Smith.
Yeah, and his blocking, which is something I had no idea he was. Yeah, I think that's something that we've learned over the last few weeks, really since he came back to practice. He's tough. Like, he doesn't look like he would be tough. I mean, he's so skinny and wiry, and he's not a big muscle head or anything, but he's a tough kid, and you don't know how that's going to go. But I liked his blocking. I mean, I was kind of stunned by it, because that's something we hadn't really seen, because they don't go live. You see it, half speed sometimes, but I was impressed. I was impressed with all the receivers and the backs. They all blocked well, but Devontae's a guy. I didn't know he had that in him, but it was good to see. It was encouraging. I mean, because 10th pick in the draft, those guys wide receivers aren't always wired that way to have a complete game. So it was nice to see that he's thinking that way.
Yeah, and it's not like they drafted him to block, but it helps. It certainly helps, especially when you're running the plays the Eagles are running. You need receivers to block, and that's why Jay Jaw was out there. You can laugh about it, but when you're running bubble screens to a receiver, you need your other receivers to block. That can be the difference between a 3-yard loss and a 15-yard gain. One block on the outside. So,
a great point. And I mean, the whole offense is predicated on short stuff and get yards after the catch. And if you're going to do that, your other receivers have to block, or those plays don't work.
Yeah. Impressive stuff from Devontae. And that's what we've heard about him since he got here, was that, yes, he's a great receiver. He's great at catching the ball, but he does a lot of other stuff well. And he's really smart, and that shows.
Yeah. And you mentioned something, and I went back and watched the play. It was like a 2-yard catch where he on a sideline, right sideline, and he tapped his left foot down as he caught the ball and it was 2 yards, but that's something that's instincts right there. That's just something he never had to do in college, because you don't need to get both feet down. So it looks cool, but I mean, those are all advanced things. This is a kid playing his first game of his life at a new level, who missed 2 weeks of camp too. How good is he going to be? I mean, it's like, I know 71 yards isn't like, earth shattering, but for a first game from a kid who had never played, missed half a training camp, the sky's the limit. I can't wait to see where he goes from here. Hey, score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts that you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, go to AAA.com/Eagles.
Miles Sanders, we didn't really talk about him on Sunday, and we should have, because, it was kind of a quiet, big game for him. It was over 100 yards from scrimmage. He caught the ball better in this game than all of last year and all of training camp.
It was like he caught the ball.
Yeah, seriously, that was a big concern heading into the season based on last year and based on training camp. He did a good job.
Yeah, he actually had more receiving yards Sunday than he had in any game last year. That's because he caught the football. And again, I thought he was really the beneficiary of some great blocking up front, both running and receiving. He didn't take any shots. He was really, because you worry about that with any. I mean, how many running backs have gotten hurt so far? Like, a lot. So I thought he showed really good judgment, when to get out of bounds, when to go down, and live for another play. I like the way he ran the ball early, and it was kind of like the first half was about the short passing game and build the lead, and then let's run it to kind of keep the lead and move the clock. And And then they got good yards doing it in the second half. But even in the first half, he only had 4 carries, but I thought he looked really quick. I mean, we've been saying that all summer, like he's having trouble catching the ball, but he looks great running it. And then Sunday he did both. And that's what makes him, that when he can do both, he's a really special player. Interesting note, I have a piece that's up today called, I'm going to do this every week, 10 Eagle stats, Rube stats. He went over 2,500 career scrimmage yards Sunday. He's got 20, I think he had 113 scrimmage yards, 71 and whatever. That's up to 113, 42. So he put him over 2,500 career scrimmage yards faster in 29 games, faster than any running back or any player in Eagles history, which I thought was interesting because he was playing at a high level really early in his career, other than the first month when Jordan Howard was getting all the touches, but really consistent player. He's just, he seems to average like between 4.6 and 4.9 every game, and that's a pretty good number. Yeah, you're right. We talk so much about Hurts and Devontae and Rager and Quez. You forget that this guy is he's one of their best players, and so many weapons on this offense, and they're all draft picks. They're all cost controlled. They're all under contract for at least another year. It's quite a stable of young offensive skill players.
Yeah, and you can kind of add Gainwell to that, and
Sure.
he's already playing a lot. I mean, 25 snaps in your first game as a running back when there's already an established guy. That's a lot, and it shows you that they're going to use both of these guys quite a bit this year. Were you surprised, by the way? I think we might have talked about this, but were you surprised that it was all Gainwell, no Boston Scott? I thought it would get there. I didn't know it would get there game one.
I was a little surprised, but it does make sense. I think there's a limit to, a kid like Gainwell, you want to get him to some kind of rhythm. So give him a series, give him a 2-minute drill. If you're trying to run 3 running backs out there, I think that's really hard to do. People talk about the 3-headed monster with in 2002 or whatever it was with Buck, Westbrook, and Deuce, but a lot of that was injury related. A lot of it was they had 2 guys in this game, 2 guys in this game. It wasn't like they had 3 guys. I think the last team to do that was the Dolphins with Jim Kick and Mercury Morris, and who was the other one? But Jim Kick, Mercury Morris. But anyway, Jordan Howard, I think, was the other one. But yeah, I think if you try to use 3, I'm not sure any of them can really get into a rhythm and get going and get a feel for the defense. I think having 2 involved, and maybe there's a snap here, snap there. There's something you want to run with Boston, but I expected to see more. But when I thought about it, it kind of makes sense, because I don't think there's anything Boston really does better than Gainwell. I like Boston Scott. I think he's a good player. He might be a little better with the ball in his hands after the catch. We haven't really seen enough of Gainwell. I think he's pretty good at that, but Gainwell's the future. These are all young kids, fun to watch. Gainwell, Rager, and Devontae are all 22. Quez is 23, Hurts is 23, Sanders is 24. These kids aren't going anywhere.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the 4th down plays, and in general, Sirianni's aggressiveness in this game, because he also went for the 2 when they got the penalty.
I love that. And I just love that that's a coach who's so involved. And as soon as there was a penalty, half the distance, we're going for 2. I love that. It just showed in his first game, there's no hesitation. And he's talked about that. We go over all these situations, these end of the game situations, 2-minute drill situations. He knew exactly what to do after that penalty. And I thought that showed that he, he's paying attention, but he was just so locked in. As soon as that penalty was called, he sent the offense back out. I like that. Especially because last year, I don't think the coach was as engaged all the time as he needed to be. And I don't want to dump on Doug because the guy won more Lombardis than anybody else in this city did combined. But that was a good sign. And I love the aggressiveness. I like the 2 fourth downs. I didn't mind them for 2 reasons. And we didn't really know how aggressive he would be in those situations. I kind of suspected he would be. But I think it shows a lot of faith in your offense and your defense, because the first one, the defense hadn't quite gotten its sea legs yet, so to do that, saying like, we trust our defense to hold here. Because obviously, if you don't get it, depending where the ball is, it's a short field. I think the one was like at the 35, kind of no man's land. You don't want to kick there, but that's a short field for the defense. And both times I think the defense likes being in that situation. They're like, show the faith in us. If you don't get it, that's okay. We're going to come out here and stop them. And obviously it gives the offense the confidence that the coach believes in them. I'd like to be a little more aggressive, maybe, put the ball in the air on fourth and 3. You have a lot of tight ends and backs who can catch the ball and get you 3 or 4 yards. And I don't like Gainwell. I love Gainwell as a player, but if you're going to run it, give it to Miles. He's your best back. But philosophically, I love going for it.
Yeah, I like both decisions to go for it. I agree with you. I don't like the play calls. It gets back to the discussion about analytics, and the part that gets lost sometimes is that yes, the analytics say this is the right play, but there were times in the last couple of years where I agree the analytics say this is, the numbers say, yeah, you're in this situation, you go for it, but the teams at that point, there has to be a human element to it. When you've got Sua Opeta and Jamon Brown out there, you don't go for it. It's a different, but with this offensive line and this group of players.
That really happened. Jamon Brown really played for this team, didn't he?
He did. And then
they brought him back
to the practice squad. Yeah. But that's my point, is that the numbers have to tell you something. And obviously they're listening to them, and they should. But there has to be an element of, yes, but this is our team. And I felt like with Doug at times, and look, maybe it's a directive from on high, and it probably is in a lot of ways. They released a gentle reminder that the franchise wants to be aggressive. They want to use these numbers. They don't care about traditional, conventional crap. They care about what the best play is and what the best move is, but it matters what your team looks like for that play. So with this team and this offense and the playmakers they have, yes,
and healthy O-line.
Healthy O-line is the biggest thing. But yes, in these situations, and a quarterback who's mobile enough to make something happen when it does break down, yes, go for it. Be aggressive. Take points when you can get them. When you're at the 1 yard line, yes, you go for it just about every time. If you have 1 yard to go to get an extra point, for the most part, do it.
At Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is yours. Now get great offers across our full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
We were talking before the pod, and I realized it was a lot. I didn't realize it was this many. How many guys made their NFL debuts in that game?
10 players played their first game, 8 rookies, 2 non-rookies. Sipas, and I think the corner Chiri, whatever his name is, he's not a rookie, but made his NFL debut. And a lot of them really, played a lot. If I added up the total snaps that all the guys in their first game played, it's like close to 300, including special teams. But yeah, Gainwell, Milton Williams played 30 some odd snaps. We all know about Devontae. I think this whole group, and it's something we kind of noticed during training camp, it's an impressive group, not just talent-wise. Just talking about the rookies, really, for the most part, the 8 rookies who played. Even Marlon played a handful. We played 6 snaps, I think. Mm-hmm. There's a seriousness among them. There's a confidence. There's a maturity. The whole group is impressive that way. We know they're talented, but even like a Zach McPherson comes down, makes 2 tackles in punt coverage, down or downs the ball, I should say, inside the 10 twice. it's just an impressive group as far as the intangibles go. And I think that allows them to go play at a high level and really get the most out of their ability. I think we saw that. There's they act like they belong here. They act like they're NFL players. They don't act like rookies. There's no wide-eyed. Maybe they felt it inside, but I really think it's a product of coaching and preparation. And if you feel, this goes back to when I was playing piano recitals as a kid. If you feel like you're prepared, there's no reason to be nervous. You get nervous if you don't really I don't really know this piece. What am I going to do? That's when you get nervous. But if you know it inside and out, and you can play it backwards, which I can do actually, but there's no reason.
Were you
to be
excited
nervous.
when the keyboard came out?
Oh yeah, always. But yeah, and I think this group kind of embodies that, and it's a reflection of drafting. It's a big part of drafting now is what kind of kid are you getting? Not just talented, but how's he going to react to being in the NFL, to getting paid a lot of money for the first time in their lives. It's an impressive group, and I think we saw it Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with that. Early thoughts on the 49ers. This is a team that's coming off a week 1 win against the Lions, so grain of salt, I guess. They won 41-33, by the way, which was it was funny. I started to go
score.
Yeah, I started to go through the game book and see how they performed, and I'm going to go through the game later. But yeah, it's funny to see 41-33, and it sends triggers to your brain like, oh wow. So it's a weird score.
And there's only been 5 41-33 games ever played, and the last one was in Minneapolis.
There was actually one since then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dallas.
So there's been 3 in the last 5 years, but there's only 2. Well, I mean, 2-point conversions kind of, make some weird scores. But I think, look, they have 2 talented quarterbacks. Mostert is out. The one time.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I love that kid. And
he announced today that he's done for the year.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, he's having the full repair.
That's a shame. He's been hurt so much. So talented, but they've got. That's a pretty good team. I was surprised the Lions put up 33 on them because that's a really good defense. It's going to be a fascinating game. I was thinking today about who I'm going to pick. I'm not ready to go there yet. We'll do that on Thursday, but I think the challenge of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance they're both going to play, and they're both really talented. So it's a lot to deal with. Debo, I mean, what do you have? $189?
Yeah.
So yeah, they've got weapons up and down the lineup.
That Kittle guy's not bad.
Kittle's not bad. The running back they used Elijah, what's his name?
Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell he went over 100 yards after Mostert got hurt. So they've got skill guys. I've always liked that defense. As many points as they gave up. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a really fun game. It's a 1:00 game for a West Coast team that played in Detroit on Sunday. They got to fly here and play at 10:00 body time. I don't know if they're coming out Friday or Saturday, but that's not easy to do for a West Coast team. Second week in a row on the road. That's a tough ask right there. But it's going to be fun. This team, I mean, whatever happens, it's going to be fun watching this football game, and I can't wait for Sunday.
Yeah,
home opener, packed stadium. Frisbee dogs, hopefully at halftime. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, we can hope. Imagine the roar from a full stadium when Sparky catches 30-yard bomb.
Well, Frisbee dogs always are better received when the team's losing, or it's a really bad preseason game. Like if you're up 17,
it's almost like a sarcastic cheer to watch a big play.
Right. So if you're up like 20-3, nobody's cheering the Frisbee dogs. But if you're down,
that's the only time I'll break the no cheering in the press box rules for Frisbee dogs. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. And if you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button there and subscribe as well. We appreciate both audiences, and it's fun. People are back into the Eagles right now, and we'll be here for you. Anything else before we wrap it up, Rube?
No, that's all I got.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you guys Thursday with Ray Didinger to break down the 49ers game.